My sister made my son eat from a dish like a dog as a joke. I restored his honor in church. The sun streamed through the stained glass windows of the tiny church, casting kaleidoscopes of color onto the worn wooden pews. Laughter bubbled up like a pot of boiling water at a family gathering, a community potluck where the rich aroma of homemade dishes floated in the air, created an atmosphere thick with warmth and joy. But in one corner, that joy turned to ash. Hannah, a devoted mother and beloved schoolteacher, sat proudly beside her vibrant son, Jamie. At 7, Jamie radiated a tender-hearted innocence, his big green eyes sparkling with curiosity. He had a laugh that could light up the darkest room. But today, that laughter was muffled, drowned by the cruel trick of Hannah's sister, Megan. How could Hannah have known that beneath Megan's playful smile lay a sharp-edged humor, one that thrived at the expense of others? Hannah had always tried to be understanding, but this was. Gasps ricocheted off the walls as laughter erupted. "What a joke!" someone shouted, laughter mingling with the gasps of disbelief. The world spun around Hannah, each chuckle stabbing into her heart deeper than the last. She felt the weight of anger rise in her chest. She couldn't just stand by. Megan's prank shredded Jamie's dignity, and fierce protectiveness took the wheel. Tears pricked at her eyes as she locked onto Jamie's face. He was confused, small, and utterly vulnerable. As if in a nightmare, he glanced up at her, those innocent eyes filled with uncertainty. It was as if time froze, the laughter now an ominous echo that suffocated the warmth of the room. She bolted toward him, each step pounding like a war drum in her ears. "Megan!" she shouted, voice trembling with fury. The room shifted, whispers cutting through the air like knives. Hannah could feel every pair of eyes boring into her back, waiting, judging. With trembling hands, she lifted Jamie from the ground, enveloping him in a warm embrace, shielding him from the sharpness surrounding them. "You are not a dog, Jamie," she whispered fiercely, her own heart breaking. "You are my son, and you deserve so much better." The crowd fell into a thick silence, all eyes turning toward Megan, whose smile faltered as she registered the gravity of the situation. Condemnation hung in the air, thick and suffocating. How far was Hannah willing to go to protect her son from this? The church felt like it was closing in, pressing on her chest. But just as Hannah prepared to confront her sister, another thought struck her. Would that only deepen the rift in their family? Would it change everything forever? Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And while you're at it, leave a like to help me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. The silence in the church was palpable, a heavy blanket that stifled the laughter and joy that moments before had filled the air. Hannah clutched Jamie tighter, her heart racing, time stretching as she faced Megan across the room. The anger bubbled in her chest, threatening to spill over. But before she could find her voice, something else broke through the tension. A sharp, piercing scream shattered the weight of the moment. It came from the back of the church. Hannah jolted, turning towards the sound, her breath hitching. In the shadows, she saw a woman, face stricken with horror, pointing toward the entrance. Hearts pounded, all heads shifting like a flock of birds in sudden flight. Then, through the tall old doors, burst a figure, wild-eyed, breathless, and frantic. "Stop! Don't you dare! He's not safe!" It was Sarah, a family friend, known for her soft-spoken demeanor. But now her voice rang like a bell in the stillness. "What?" Megan's smile vanished, confusion twisting her features. "Your son, Jamie, he's in danger!" Sarah gasped, stumbling into the aisle, her arms flailing slightly as she sought to stabilize herself. Hannah's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" "Benny, he took him. He said—" Sarah choked on her words, tears streaming down her face. "He said he was going to hurt Jamie if you didn't come home immediately." The church air thickened with disbelief. Murmurs spread like wildfire, the congregation recoiling from the shocking news. Hannah felt a wave of nausea wash over her, the room spinning as her emotions crashed into one another. Fear for Jamie, anger at Megan, and confusion about what was happening. "Who? Benny?" Hannah's voice quivered, fingers tightening around Jamie's small frame as she prepared to bolt towards the door. "What are you talking about?" "Your ex. He's loose!" Sarah cried, her eyes wild as she scanned the poorly lit corners of the church. "I saw him. He was waiting by your car. He said you'd made a mistake leaving him. Your son? He's not safe." Time seemed to freeze. Hannah's body turned cold, her instincts kicking in at lightning speed. Jamie, her sweet boy, was in imminent danger. Megan's face transformed, shifting from shock to horror. "What? Benny is supposed to be in jail. He has no right!" Megan stammered, backing away, hands raised as if to ward off the looming specter of danger. Hannah felt dizzy, but she had to focus. "We need to get out of here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She was torn now, not just between defending Jamie and confronting Megan, but against a real threat that loomed before them. In the dim light, shadows danced across the walls, flickering from the stained glass. Every heart raced, every eye darting. Panic was rising, confusion clung thick in the air. As she moved toward the door, panic clawed at her throat. "We have to find Jamie," she shouted. But just as they reached the exit, another scream rang out, louder and closer. "No! He's here!" The weight of fear and uncertainty settled over them as the door slammed open, shattering the moment. A figure stood, silhouetted against the sun, a twisted smile curving on his lips. "Benny." "Hannah," he called, voice smooth, dripping with malice. "You thought you could just run away?" Hannah's heart dropped. Everything she had tried to protect began to unravel as the truth hung in the air like a noose. Would she ever truly be free? And worse, was Jamie even safe? Suspense tightened around them, fear tinged with shocking revelations, as Hannah faced an unfathomable choice. Would she fight for her son against a twisted past that threatened to engulf them both? Hannah's breath hitched, caught somewhere between panic and disbelief. Benny stood there, his twisted grin sending shivers down her spine. The church, once filled with laughter, now echoed with whispers of fear. Faces shifted, eyes wide with shock, mouths agape in uncertainty. The world around her narrowed, focus sharpening on the man who had caused her so much pain. "Let him go! He's just a boy!" Hannah shouted, instinct rising in her chest as she held Jamie close. But Benny only chuckled, a low, menacing sound. "Oh, Hannah, you've never understood. You can't protect him from me. He's mine, too, and I'm right here." For a split second, the air thickened with confusion as the reality of his words dawned on those present. A heavy silence suffocated the congregation. The atmosphere crackled with unspoken tension, as if the very walls of the church absorbed their collective breaths. "Jamie, stay behind me," Hannah urged, feeling the chill of dread creep up her spine. In that instant, she was a mother first and a daughter second. Megan's face reflected disbelief, her hands trembling as she struggled to process the rapid unraveling of the moment. "Benny, you're not supposed to be here," she exclaimed, her voice shaking. But it only fueled his twisted amusement. "Why? Because you think I'm locked away?" "Nah, sweet sister. That was merely a vacation. I'm back now, and I have some unfinished business," he said, each word dripping with malice. Suddenly, the door swung shut with a resounding thud, and the dim lighting flickered. Gasps echoed, confusion erupted, and everyone took a step back, eyes darting towards the exit as the dread thickened the air. "What do you want?" Hannah's voice trembled, a mix of defiance and fear, as she took a protective step forward. She could feel Jamie's small hand clutching her leg, grounding her. But before Benny could answer, a deep rumble reverberated from the stained glass windows. A shadow stepped forward, a figure she recognized, but hadn't expected. It was Michael, her ex-husband's brother, quiet, reclusive, but ever present in the background. "Enough!" he bellowed, breaking through the tension like glass shattering. Everyone turned, surprise mingling with fear. Michael had always kept to himself, a dark horse in family dynamics. And yet now he stood tall and unwavering. "You think you can just come back here and disrupt everything after what you did?" Benny's grin faltered, momentarily replaced by an expression of confusion. "What are you talking about?" Michael moved closer. "You really don't remember, do you? The secrets, the truth? You think this is just about Jamie? You underestimate how much we know." Hannah blinked, confusion swirling in her mind. "Michael, what are you saying?" A glimmer of revelation sparked in Michael's eyes. I'm saying Jamie isn't your only son. Time stopped. The weight of his words crashed down around them like a tidal wave. Every eye in the room widened, jaws dropped, gasps rolled like thunder. Hannah's heart raced as she searched for answers, grappling with the implications. Benny's smile twisted into a snarl. So you finally told him, he spat, fury lacing his words. You were supposed to keep it a secret. Hannah's world shattered. Everything she thought she knew imploded as the truth hung heavily in the air. Jamie, her innocent, beloved boy, what did that mean? Michael stepped closer, determination in his eyes. They need to know, Hannah. Hannah felt her chest tighten, eyes flitting between Jamie's confused gaze and Benny's malignant grin. What did you mean? Suddenly, the walls of her once safe world felt like they were closing in, rocks tumbling, everything shifting. The laughter that had filled the church now morphed into an echo of betrayal, whispers of secrets yearning to break free. And with that revelation, Hannah realized everything was about to change. Would she fight for Jamie? Now, knowing this devastating truth, or would she be consumed by a past she'd tried so hard to escape? Answers loomed, but just as the chaos rose to a breaking point, darkness enveloped them all, leaving Hannah standing at the edge of uncertainty. The untold mystery was just beginning. Hannah stood frozen, the world around her tilting with the shock of Michael's revelation. The congregation's whispers faded, replaced by the thundering pulse of her heart. Jamie watched her. So, you're just going to spill our secrets now? He sneered, his voice low and menacing. The air thickened. Every breath Hannah took, feeling like a battle against impending dread. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the front of the church. Everyone spun around. The heavy double doors had burst open again, but this time it wasn't just Benny who stood there. It was another figure, tall and draped in shadows, their presence bending the very light of the sun. "Let the boy go!" The stranger shouted, voice boomed like thunder. Hannah squinted, heart racing. "Who are you?" she gasped, her grip tightening around Jamie as the man stepped into the church, revealing a familiar face she hadn't seen in years. "Peter?" The name escaped her lips, a whisper slipping into the swirling chaos. Peter was her childhood friend, someone she once trusted absolutely. But now, years had passed, and time had not been kind. "Yes, Hannah, it's me." He strode closer, urgency in his eyes. "You don't know the whole story. You never did." He was practically trembling, looking from Hannah to Benny, then back again. The congregation was caught in a web of tension, fear weaving through the spectators like smoke. "What do you mean?" Hannah demanded, a growing knot of confusion tightening in her stomach. "What's happening?" "Benny's not just any danger. He's been lying all this time." Peter's brow furrowed. "If you don't listen to me, Jamie's life could be at stake." Jamie's hand squeezed Hannah's thigh, grounding her but also igniting her protectiveness. "Mommy, What's going on? He asked, innocent confusion breaking her heart anew. Benny laughed, high and manic, cutting through the air. What can you possibly do, Peter? She's not going to believe you. She never does. Hannah's heart skipped. Peter, what are you talking about? What lies? Just tell me. Benny isn't who he says he is, Peter shouted, his voice cracking under the weight of his words. He's not your son's father. He's your brother. Gasps erupted throughout the crowd. Hannah felt an icy chill crawl up her spine. What? The word slipped from her mouth like a prayer gone wrong. Peter nodded, desperation etched across his at once familiar yet distant face. You were never supposed to find out. He's been waiting for the right moment. Hannah, Jamie, ... He's been in danger since the day he was born. Benny roared with laughter, the kind that echoed through the church's hollowed halls. You think you know me? You have no idea. I've always been one step ahead. Time froze as the implications crashes down. Hannah's world trembled beneath her, pieces shattering and swirling like autumn leaves in a gale. What do you want? She shrieked, her voice trembling with fear and rage, wrapping around Jamie tighter. I just want what I deserve, Benny replied smoothly, his twisted smile resurfacing. What's mine? Suddenly, with a swift movement, he lunged forward, reaching for Jamie. Hannah's breath caught in her throat. Time seemed to stretch impossibly. Every eye in the room was wide, every heartbeat thunderous. But before Benny could reach them, Peter sprang into action, tackling him to the ground. The church erupted into chaos. Screams, shouts, bodies moving in a frantic dance of survival. Hannah clutched Jamie, pulling him close as she pushed her way through the fray. She could see the dark, chaotic mess of confusion exploding all around her. We have to go, she yelled. But that's when she felt it. A sharp, searing pain slicing into her side. Hannah gasped, looking down. Blood blossomed through her shirt. Shock riveted through her body, paralyzing her. The room spun, faces fading in and out. They were in a fight for their lives, but now it seemed as though it was at a catastrophic cost. And amidst the panic, in that crumbling moment, a voice emerged from the back of her mind. The truth she'd avoided for so long. The truth about Jamie. How far had she really run from her past? As darkness swept over her vision, one question echoed in the depths of her swirling thoughts. How could everything she believed be a web of secrets and lies? Hannah felt the world tilt, her breath coming in shallow gasps as the darkened church spun around her. Pain shot through her side, sharp and sudden, as the weight of Peter's words crashed into her. Jamie clung to her like a lifeline. Confusion knitting his brow, she wanted to shield him, but her strength was dwindling. The chaos swirled. Benny struggled beneath Peter. Fury and madness mixed in his eyes as the congregation erupted. Fingers pointed, gasps echoed, and the air surged with dread. Hannah could sense the fear creeping through the crowd, thick like fog. Every face turned toward her, eyes wide with shock and judgment. "Mummy!" Jamie's voice trembled, pulling her back briefly to reality. Then, as if the world had shifted on its axis, The doors burst open again. Not slowly, but tearing open with ferocity. A group of masked figures poured into the church, their movements rapid and threatening. Panic ignited like gunpowder. "Get down!" someone shouted. Hannah instinctively shielded Jamie, pulling him tight against her chest. Her heart raced. She felt the world slip further into chaos as everything collided in a storm of shouts and frantic movements. People screamed, scrambling for any semblance of safety. Benny wrested himself free from Peter with an unexpected burst of strength. The masked figures surged forward, and in the sudden chaos, Hannah caught sight of a flash. Metal glinted. "No!" She screamed, but her voice was swallowed by the tumult. A shot rang out, sharp as a crack of thunder. It froze the chaos momentarily, silence gripping the heart of it all. A figure stumbled back, hand pressed to their chest, eyes wide in shock. It was Peter. Hannah's heart plummeted. No, Peter! She didn't understand fully, but the sight of him collapsing brought a crushing weight to her chest. She dropped to her knees. Jamie still clutched tightly to her. "Mommy, what's happening?" He whimpered, tears spilling down his cheeks. She could barely respond, the room closing in, air growing thin. The masked figures moved swiftly, their intentions dark and stark against the brightness of the church. The atmosphere thickened with blood and betrayal. Benny's face twisted with manic glee, eyes darting between the chaos and Hannah. "This is cleanup time, sis!" "You were never supposed to know," he shouted, his laughter sounding hollow, twisted. As chaos enveloped them, a low murmur cracked through the crowd. "Where's the kid? Get him!" The masked figures converged again, eyes fixed on Jamie. "Run!" Hannah screamed, pushing Jamie away just as two figures lunged. But before they could reach him, the doors exploded off their hinges as the police swarmed in, shouts echoing, lights flashing. "Get on the ground!" they ordered. In the turmoil, Hannah felt a moment of hope pierce through her dark fog, but it was quickly overshadowed. Benny turned, using the confusion to his advantage, stepping back toward the shadows. "You can't stop this, Hannah!" he shouted, disappearing into the crowd as the officers shouted commands. Then something extraordinary happened. Stunned silence as one of the masked figures lowered their mask, revealing a familiar face. "Mom?" The word hung in the air like a dark cloud as Hannah's heart dropped into an abyss. Her breath caught. "Mom? How? Why?" The question slipped out, voice trembling as realization settled. The masked figure smiled darkly, and for the first time since the chaos erupted, Hannah felt fear ice her veins. "Did you really think you could escape? We're just getting started, dear." As Jamie looked up with wide, innocent eyes, the truth crashed down. The web of her family had spun deeper than she could have imagined. How much danger were they really in? Who had she trusted? Hannah stood at the precipice of chaos, heart racing, mind reeling, and one question lingered. Was this just the beginning? Hannah felt her heart hammering in her chest as she tried to grasp the enormity of Peter's words. Everything she had believed, everything she had fought for, started to spiral into confusion. Her eyes darted to Jamie, whose small face twisted with fear and uncertainty. "Mom?" he whimpered again. The terror in his voice pierced her heart like a dagger. Before she could answer, booming footsteps echoed through the church. The masked figures were undeterred by the chaos. They surged forward, eyes feral and focused. The police shouted commands, their voices drowning out the panic. Everything felt like a blur, emotions crashing together like waves against rocks. "Get down!" someone yelled again. But Hannah was frozen, her protective instinct battling with the shock of Peter's revelation. Just then, a gunshot broke through the tumult, ringing like a bell. A cop fell back, gripping his shoulder. Blood splattered across the aisle, and a wave of horrified gasps swept through the crowd. "No!" Hannah shouted, clutching Jamie close, heart racing with terror. Peter was on his feet again, lunging toward the nearest masked figure. The congregation erupted into screams, chaos consuming the sacred space. It was a scene straight out of a nightmare, faces twisted in fear, bodies moving with frantic energy. Then time froze once more. Another figure emerged from the back, tall, dark and imposing. The air thickened as the person stepped into the light. "Enough!" the voice boomed, familiar yet distant. It was Tom, Hannah's brother, a presence she hadn't anticipated. But then he did something unimaginable. Tom drew a pistol from his waistband, leveling it at Benny. "I should have killed you a long time ago," he spat, eyes blazing with fury. The entire room fell silent. Everyone caught between horror and disbelief. Hannah's heart dropped. "Tom, no!" she screamed. "Put that down!" But Benny just laughed, a sound chilling in its malevolence. "You think you can threaten me? You're just as much a part of this mess, brother." "Shut up!" Tom yelled, taking a step forward as he tightened his grip on the gun. "If you think I'll let you hurt Jamie?" "Enough!" a new voice thundered from the pews. It was Sarah, stepping up with a fire Hannah had never seen in her. "This has gone too far. Put it down now." Disbelief crashed down around Hannah like a wave. How could this be happening? Faces turned toward her, eyes wide, dripping with confusion and horror. Was Tom another player in this twisted game? "Wait," she gasped, a realization hitting her with the force of a freight train. You're in on this too?" The silence suffocated the room as all eyes shifted to Tom, who hesitated, conflicted. "I didn't choose this. They have something on us." "Us?" Hannah felt her stomach twist violently. "What do you mean?" "Family secrets keep us all trapped, Hannah," Tom snapped, desperation cracking his voice. "You have no idea how deep this goes." Suddenly, without warning, a piercing scream cut through the tension. It came from the back of the church, where the doors had swung open again. A figure staggered forward, pale and gasping, clutching their arm. "Help! It's not over! They're coming for you all!" Hannah's breath caught, shock washing over her like ice water. The figure fell to the ground, revealing a familiar face. Her own mother, torn and bloody. "Mom?" Tears of disbelief welled in Hannah's eyes as she rushed forward, cradling her mother. "What happened? Who did this?" But her mother just looked into her eyes, urgency flickering in her weariness. "Hannah, it's not what you think. You've all been played." In that moment, everything fractured. Secrets hung heavy in the air, their ramifications stretching far beyond what anyone imagined. The room throbbed with tension, and as the implications settled, one question hung like a dark cloud. Could they trust anyone at all? Hannah's heart sank as she looked down at her mother, fear spiking through her veins. What happened? Who did this? She shook her head, trying to comprehend the shock written all over her mom's face. But her mother's gaze was distant, almost unfocused. "Hannah," she whispered, voice shaky. "You have to understand. It's not just Benny. There are others. People who will come for you, who'll stop at nothing." "Who? This doesn't make sense," Hannah cried, urgency sparking. She glanced around. The congregation was a mix of fear and disbelief, while a tense silence hung like a looming storm cloud. Then from the crowd, a breathless figure stepped forward, eyes wide with terror. "It's true," he shouted, a man she recognized, one of her mother's old friends from the neighborhood. "I've seen them! They're coming for all of you!" Gasps rippled through the room, confusion morphing into panic. But what hit hardest was the urgent desperation in the man's tone, as if he had witnessed something unspeakable. Benny laughed, dark and twisted, as he paced the perimeter, feeding off the chaos. "See? Even your little friends know the truth, Hannah. You can't escape your destiny." "Shut up!" Tom shouted, pointing the gun at Benny again. He was sweating now, face twisted in anger. "You don't scare us." But it was too late. As if on cue, lights flickered, plunging the church into shadow. A low hum started to fill the air, vibrating through the floor. Hannah's stomach churned. It felt like the very building was alive, waiting for something. Then it happened. A loud crash echoed from the back, the stained glass windows rattling violently as a group of masked figures surged into the church, their entrance forceful and ominous. They weren't just here to disrupt. They were here to take control. They stormed forward, voices shouting, pulling people apart like rag dolls. "Get back! Get out!" someone yelled. Panic exploded like fireworks, and people scrambled, pushing and shoving to escape the unexpected siege. In the midst of it, Hannah's world shattered once more as she felt a hand grip her shoulder, strong, unyielding. She turned to find herself face to face with one of the intruders. "You're coming with us," he growled. Without thinking, she squeezed Jamie's hand tight. "No, get away from me." But before she could react, a shriek rang out, sharp and desperate. "Mom, look out!" Janie screamed, and Hannah's heart stopped. She twisted just in time to see Tom drop the gun, a look of horror plastered on his face as he collapsed to the ground, wincing in pain. A thin line of crimson appeared on his shirt, spreading rapidly. "No!" Hannah's voice cracked, panic racing through her. She dropped to her knees beside her brother. "What happened?" But in that same instant, a figure from the group of masked intruders stepped forward, pulling back their hood. A familiar, yet unrecognizable face stared back at her. Her own. Hannah felt her breath hitch, confusion blurring her vision. "What? Who are you?" The woman mirrored her features, but wore a smug, sinister smile that sent chills down Hannah's spine. "I'm the sister you never knew you had, Hannah. We've been watching. You think you can hide from us? You can't escape your family." Time froze. The realization hit like a punch to her gut. Everything and everyone she thought she knew crumbled in an instant. Who else was woven into this twisted web? As her mind reeled with shock, the lights flickered again, and the church plunged deeper into chaos. The congregation was lost in a wave of terror. The cries of unshed fears echoed, straining against the hollowness that enveloped her. And in that moment, one undeniable question loomed larger than all the others. How deep did her family's treachery run? Hannah's breath quickened as she stared into the face of her sister. Who was this woman who looked like her, but felt so strangely different? The chaos swirled around them, screams echoing, sirens blaring, panic spilling into every corner of the church. Jamie clutched her leg, eyes wide, confusion etched across his innocent face. The woman's smile was unsettling as she stepped closer. "I've been waiting for this moment, Hannah. Didn't you ever wonder why you felt so different? You were always the favorite. Stop it!" Hannah shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. "What are you talking about? What do you want?" The woman laughed, a sharp, cold sound. "I want my rightful place in the family. You have what's mine." Peter was struggling to stay upright, blood seeping through his hands where he pressed against his wound. "What are you saying?" he gasped. "Who are you?" Hannah barely heard him. Her world had collapsed around her, shattering into pieces. Everything was unraveling too quickly. "This can't be happening," she cried, the reality of it weighing heavy in her chest. Her heart raced, fear choking her. They were deep in a storm, and she was losing her footing. The room darkened, shadows shifting, as if alive. "Family is everything," the woman continued, stepping even closer, her eyes glinting with something dangerous. "You deserve to be stripped of your crown, Hannah. It's time for you to know who the true heir really is." Suddenly, the lights flickered violently. With a loud crack, they went out, plunging the entire church into darkness. Hannah's stomach dropped. Panic erupted. People stumbled over one another in desperation, and Jamie clung tighter to her leg, grounding her in uncertainty. "Hannah! We need to get out!" Peter's voice sliced through the chaos, but it was drowned by the shouts and screams filling the air. A surge of footsteps thundered outside, and then a crash. The church doors flew open once again, and a new figure burst through. A man, tall and hooded, his presence overwhelming. "Get down!" he bellowed, rushing toward them. In the flickering light from the emergency exit signs, the man pulled back his hood, revealing a striking resemblance to the woman. Hannah's breath hitched. "Who are you?" "I'm Jacob," he said, his voice deep and commanding. "You need to trust me, Hannah. This is much bigger than us." "Trust you?" Hannah shouted, disbelief coursing through her. "Why would I trust anyone right now?" But Jacob didn't blink. "Because you're not actually the one in danger. Jamie is." Everyone froze. Time stopped. Every eye in the room turned to her son. "Jamie?" she whispered, heart pounding in her throat. "What do you mean?" "Benny knows the truth," Jacob replied, stepping forward urgently. "He's been hunting you all to get to him." "What truth?" Her pulse raced. "You need to tell me now." But then, without warning, everything exploded. The masked figures closed in on Jacob. Chaos erupted anew, and the air buzzed with confusion. A deafening roar split the space as Benny lunged, barreling toward Jacob, holding something glinting, a knife. "No!" Hannah screamed. In that instant, the room erupted into a cacophony of shouts and screams as she launched herself forward, Jamie still clinging to her leg. But before she could reach them, the unexpected happened. Jacob's eyes flared with wild determination, and he reached deep into his coat, pulling out a small device that pulsed with light. The moment it activated, a blinding flash engulfed the church, illuminating everything. Faces registered shock, panic, and horror, and then, just as quickly, it imploded. The lights squeezed together, spiraling into a singularity, and Hannah felt the world shift under her feet. As reality twisted and warped, she found herself thrown backward. "No," she screamed, letting go of Jamie. In one dreadful heartbeat, she realized what happened, a disconnection. Suddenly, Jamie was no longer beside her. The light dissipated, leaving a ripple of darkness and impending doom. "Jamie!" she hollered, fear igniting a flame inside her. Where was her son? Benny's laughter echoed through the dim emptiness, mingling with the fading chaos. "You thought you could keep him safe? He's my leverage now." Heart racing, she looked around in a search that spun into desperation. Had everything she fought for been nothing but smoke and mirrors? Who had she really trusted? And as she stood in the eerie silence, one question blared in her mind, echoing the broken pieces of her world. What did she really know about her family? Hannah stood frozen, staring into the face of the woman who claimed to be her sister. Her heart thundered. Everything around her faded into a blur, the noise of chaos drowning into a hollow echo. Jamie was gone, and she could feel panic gripping her throat. Desperation clawed at her from the inside as she fought to recover her racing thoughts. Her sister's smile twisted, a cruel reflection of her own face. "It's funny, isn't it? You played house with everything, and I'm the ghost you forgot. But here I am." "Who are you?" Hannah gasped, shaking. "What do you want?" Suddenly, the ground shook beneath her. The lights flickered violently and then went out completely. Darkness engulfed them. A fear electrified the air. Then, amid the darkness, a scream pierced through, the sound raw and terrifying. "Let him go!" a voice cried, cutting through the chaos. Hannah squinted, trying to make out the figure. Just as she recognized it as Jacob, something else happened. A sudden rush of warmth enveloped her. A soft glow illuminated the room, flickering like a dying flame. In that moment, Hannah gasped. Jamie! He was suddenly back, standing by her side, eyes wide. Fear etched across his small face. "Mom, where are we?" he whimpered. Relief flooded through her, but it was laced with confusion. Hadn't she just lost him? But before she could reach him, Benny launched himself forward, eyes fierce. "You think you're safe? I always have a backup plan!" As he lunged, Jacob moved to intercept him. But then, to everyone's shock, a loud bang rang out, the sound echoing like a gunshot. A flash of light erupted from Jacob's device, clashing against the darkness, illuminating everything momentarily. In that blinding light, Hannah saw something horrifying. Her mother staggered forward, blood pouring from her side. Horror skidded through her, choking the breath in her throat. "Mom!" Hannah cried, scrambling forward. But her mother's gaze was vacant, as if she hadn't seen Hannah step closer. "It's not safe," she whispered, struggling to still upright, blood pooling beneath her. Hannah's heart raced, dread clamping over her. She turned back to Jacob, but the look on his face had shifted. He was staring at their mother with wide, horrified eyes. "What have you done?" he hissed. "What do you mean?" Hannah gasped. Jacob stepped backward, disbelief morphing into fury. "You don't even know, do you? You've been played all along, haven't you?" It was all too much. The emotional and physical pain spun around her. "Stop it! What are you talking about?" But before he could answer, the ground trembled violently again. The lights flickered back on, illuminating the chaos. Benny stood inches away, grinning madly, his fingers dripping with something dark. Then, in one swift motion, he held Jamie in front of him, knife pressed to his throat. The room froze. "Let him go!" Hannah screamed, her heart in her throat. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Why would I do that? This is my insurance," Benny sneered, reveling in the terror he created. Just then, the church doors flew open again. A wave of blinding light pushed through, illuminating the interior. The figures? It was the police, swarming inside, guns drawn. The commanding officer stepped forward. "Drop the weapon now!" But before the situation could escalate, Jacob shouted, "Everyone listen! You're all in danger!" One word sliced through the air. Heavy and charged with gravity. Danger. With that, Benny glanced around, calculating, and a flicker of fear crossed his face. Then came the twist. "You all think this is just about family? It's bigger than that." In an instant, the atmosphere changed. The ground quaked beneath them, and Hannah saw something far worse than she had imagined. She stepped back, shaken. Jacob started to reveal secrets that intertwined their lives. This isn't just a simple family feud. This goes back generations. "Generations?" Hannah breathed, confusion swirling. Suddenly, their mother's eyes flickered, and she gasped out a final word. "Hannah, The truth is..." But no one heard the rest. The room erupted into chaos once more. Screams echoed through the church as the masked figures transformed into something unrecognizable. Hannah felt the foundation of her world crack around her, and chaos reigned. What had she stepped into? Every person in that room held up a secret much darker than she could ever know. As darkness threatened to reclaim them, she could only think, was this all just the beginning? The chaos spun around Hannah like a whirlwind, but the urgency to protect Jamie surged through her. "Let him go!" she screamed, feeling the sheer desperation coursing through her veins. Benny's knife hovered dangerously close to Jamie's throat, his grin lingering with malice. "You think you can protect him?" he quipped, looking for weakness. But just then, Jacob stepped forward, his voice echoing with authority. "You're done, Benny." The game ends now. A piercing light shot from the device in Jacob's hand, illuminating the room again with stark clarity. For a fleeting moment, the chaos fell away, and faces reflected shock and betrayal. It was just enough time for Hannah to see her mother, bleeding yet alive, trying to steady herself. "Hannah, the truth matters more than you think," her mother gasped, the urgency in her voice cutting through the tension. "Mom," Hannah cried, her heart aching. "What do you mean?" "Trust the family you never knew," her mother whispered, then slumped to the ground as Jacob stepped closer to Benny, their standoff electrifying the air. The weight of her mother's words pushed Hannah forward. "You're outnumbered, Benny," she said with newfound courage. "You don't have to hurt him." But Benny only laughed, and it was chilling. "You really think this will end well for you? I've waited too long for this moment." In that moment, Sarah, the family friend, suddenly charged forward, wielding a small baton, and took Benny by surprise. The knife clattered away, falling from his grip as he stumbled back. "Now!" Jacob shouted. "Now's our chance!" Hannah dashed toward Jamie, pulling him tightly in her arms. "It's okay. I'm here." "You're safe now." Tears streamed down her face as she squeezed him tightly, panic and relief colliding in her heart. But the momentary victory was quickly overshadowed. Another figure emerged from the shadows, one of the masked individuals, pulling back their hood to reveal a familiar face. It was Hannah's sister. "You can't stop us. You'll regret it." The dam burst and utter chaos returned. The police officers surged in, yelling commands, voices mingling with shouts and cries. The confrontation escalated. There was nothing but noise and chaos. Then, in an explosion of light, the masked figure lunged for Jacob. But he dodged, showcasing an agility that surprised everyone. With a swift movement, he knocked the sister to the ground, gaining the upper hand. Hannah could hear her mother's voice in her mind amidst the chaos, the weight of family secrets crashing around her. "You don't have to do this," she thought. In that instant, she felt something shift within. When she glanced at Jamie, his wide green eyes mirrored her fear. But also something else. Strength. It ignited a fire in her. "We are not a pawn in your twisted game," Hannah shouted. "This ends here." The police advanced with their own weapons drawn. shouting their orders loudly. The rest of the congregation began to push toward the exit, confusion spreading through the church like wildfire. With one last burst of determination, Hannah shouted, "Everyone out!" "We can't let them win." As panic swept through the crowd and people scrambled for the exit, Jacob and Sarah restrained Benny and the sister, their grit strong against the tide of chaos. Amid the disorder, Hannah lifted Jamie high above her, holding him tight. "We have to move," she urged, rushing to the doors just as they cracked open under the weight of bodies rushing to escape the sudden rush of freedom. In the aftermath, the police secured the area. Benny and Hannah's sister were taken away in handcuffs, their laughter now fading echoes of defeat. Hannah blinked, the harsh reality settling down. "We did it!" she gasped, and she clutched Jamie as if he were the most precious thing in the universe. Tears of relief filled her eyes as she turned to her mother, who was now being assisted by paramedics. "You'll be okay." Hannah promised, her voice trembling but filled with love. As the sirens wailed in the distance, the weight of unanswered questions loomed. But for now, Hannah cherished the small victory. She found Jamie again, his arms wrapping around her waist, and in that embrace, she felt hope flickering. Yet just beyond this chaos lay deeper mysteries waiting to be unearthed, truths she would soon have to confront. As she and Jamie made their way out of the church and into a new dawn, Hannah couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows were not completely gone. And with that, she vowed to uncover the truth about her strange, tangled family once and for all. If you enjoyed this wild ride, you must subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next mind-blowing stories. Press the like button now to help us feed the algorithm and keep the stories coming. Flood the comments section with your reaction